of Asia. NCHS has exclusive partnerships with Swinburne University of Technology, Cal State University Monterey Bay, Cal State University Humboldt, Cal State University Bakersfield, and Cal State University San Marcos.
Ayubowan, welcome to NCHS.
Hi, I'm Samadhi, Assistant Manager Enrollment. This is our counseling flow where you get all the information about studying in Australia, USA or Malaysia.
How are you?
I'm fine. Okay, so degrees we have
At NCHS, our focus is on delivering excellence in higher education in the streams of business, IT, engineering, health science, and many more. Serving with the highest international standards, NCHS is an ISO 9001-2016 certified company. NCHS Quality assures producing high quality and on-time delivery of students suitable for continuing degrees. This is reflected in the prestigious university qualifications offered, as well as the friendly and supportive study environment. With our strong commitment to provide high-quality education, NCHS offers distinctive benefits that are tailor-made to suit the needs of each individual student. Our students enjoy modern classes with the best facilities, focused learning and one-on-one time with the teachers, giving every opportunity to succeed in studies. The same syllabus, methods of delivery and evaluation as the partnering universities are followed, ensuring that the pathway programs conducted at NCHS are of the same standards and quality. The industry-informed and industry-engaged study programs at NCHS are specially designed to combine rigorous academic studies with practical knowledge. This is essential for the academic and career success of the students. NCHS offers the best facilities, which include futuristic classrooms, purpose-built science and engineering lab, high-tech computer laboratories, a resource-oriented library, study areas, and recreational facilities to relax after lecture hours. Reputed academics with best qualifications are there to administer and deliver the programs. We are striving to provide students with a globally recognized qualification and thereby transform today's young minds into tomorrow's leaders. We warmly welcome you to NCHS to witness the best in higher education.
The vibrant faces you see behind me belong to the talented and ambitious students of the Student Council. We, as the Student Council, operate as a sole organization within the student community, spearheading the opportunity of knitting the college closer together, and we are empowered by the administration staff to carry out social events and gatherings to give the all-round university experience to the students and not only the high levels of education offered by NCHS.
Navaloka Global EduLink Private Limited is a member of NCHS and a venture of Navaloka Holdings, which was established as a registered agent to process student visas to Australia, USA and Malaysia. Since then, our main task has been assisting and guiding all students studying at NCHS for their student visa process.
As the Dean of Studies, I'm very proud to say that we have a tremendous record of academic achievement. Each year we receive feedback from the universities, and each time we find that the results our students achieve are more than comparable with the local students as well as those from other countries.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I warmly welcome all of you on behalf of the organizers. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, I'm Hashari, and it's a great privilege for me to welcome today's guest and all our participants and students on behalf of NCHS. We are just a couple of minutes away from starting a very fruitful session with an eminent personality in the field of tourism and hospitality industry, Mr. Maxine Vikrama Singha. He will talk about new trends in travel and tourism amidst the pandemic. Mr. Maxine has completed his higher studies in a prestigious university in United Kingdom and currently attached to the board of directors at Theme Resorts and Spas and licensed DC loan and consultant inbound to operators. Mr. Vikramasinghe has taken the challenge of providing the leadership for young inbound tour operators through SLIITO youth and trying to develop a positive atmosphere among youngers and budding professionals in this industry. In the meantime, today's session is moderated by Ms. Nisha Palnsami, who is a member of the NCHS academic team and a keen enthusiast of research in travel and leisure tourism. Just a little of housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the discussion, please send us through the chat and we will bring them up during the Q&A session. Now, without further delay, we will hand over the proceedings to the moderator. And I wish you will enjoy this webinar and enhance your knowledge in this field. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Hashari, for that introduction. And I would also like to thank all the panelists here with us today. Being a proud Sri Lankan, of course a tiny island, yet recognized as one of the leading destinations when it comes to attracting locals and foreign travelers, which is also known for its enchanting ancient ruins, the substandard beaches, the impressive mountains, and of course, our colorful festivals, and tempting water sports, wildlife, and yes, we can keep on counting our assets of the country. But unfortunately, we are currently facing a crisis where our foreign reserves have hit the bottom. And as a result of that, we are in a situation where we have to regenerate our strategies to build up the travel and tourism industry of our country. By giving that sense to our audience, today, we have a young aspiring business leader with us, whom we will be spending the next few hours in discussing today's topic, the new trends in travel and tourism amidst the pandemic of COVID-19. It's none other than the gentleman, Mr. Maxine Vikrama Singha, who is attached to the board of directors of Theme Resorts and Spa. He is also the president of Slighter Youth, which supports the apex body of the inbound tour operators of Sri Lanka. Hello, Maxine. Thank you for accepting our invitation for this evening.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Nisha. Thank you, Hashari. Thank you so much for your wonderful introductions. Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to be here with all of you today. And I hope everyone's well and keeping safe because, like you said, it is a very tough time we're all going through. And yeah, looking forward to the chat.
That's really nice. To start off with my first question for you. On top of what we have read about you, I think the audience might be a little bit curious to know who Maxine Vikrama Singha is and how do you see yourself?
Well, yeah, I feel like this is the toughest question of all of them because it's always, I find it a bit, weird talking about myself. But yeah, so I have been I pretty much come from a hospitality family. So my father, Chandra, has been in the industry for over 40 or 50 years now. And, I've just always been around him, from a young age. And I think that is where I really got the passion for it. I mean, even from a young age, I always had a choice. It's not like I had to go into hospitality, but I think, I was very much drawn towards it just because I think just the passion and just what it brings to you, because when you work in hospitality and tourism, you're basically trying to create dream holidays and a dream vacation for a lot of people that come to visit. And that feeling itself is extremely rewarding, as well as building up new concepts, new properties, and doing something a bit innovative. So I think that is where I really got into hospitality. But about myself, I would say I really enjoy getting out there in nature, and I have especially I think with the ocean, I love to surf and windsurf when I can. Always try to stay a bit active with sports and just get out in nature as much as possible. um, yeah, and yeah, I also have a bit of a passion for economics and politics, which is I think why one of the reasons I did my degree in economics, where I've always had an interest in developmental economics as well. But I mean, that's more of a side project, side passion, and my real passion is hospitality and tourism.
Oh, wonderful. I think that reveals the generosity involved in your character, and we are glad that we have such personalities in the industry. So, as an addition to the same, we would also like to know what is keeping you occupied these days during the period where there is a significant surge in the COVID-19?
Well, yeah, there's quite a few things actually. I think it's been from a work perspective a very challenging time. I mean, you don't have your typical work you have, but you still have to keep active. And I've been trying to keep active as much as I can. With our travel agency, always keeping that rapport going with all our agents as well as the hotels, and also there's a lot of communication that's going about the situation, which does take a bit of time, calling, reassuring people on situation on the ground, and also trying to just drum up some business wherever you can. I think working during the pandemic, you have to change your marketing plan or your plans every week or every 2 weeks, because there's always changing situations, whether it's restrictions that are coming from countries, other countries having restrictions for travel to Sri Lanka, then quarantine and level 1 and all these different things. So you have to stay a bit active. But apart from that, we've just been working a lot with the team on different projects. So we have a few hotels coming up at the moment, so we've just been really diving deep into them and trying to bring out new concepts, as well as just working on our branding. And me and a few guys of the team have started getting into photography and video editing. So with the team, we've just been trying to create few videos and, just helping boost all our marketing and, being ready very much for when the restart really happens. I mean, it's happening slowly and gradually. So yeah, it was just a bit of that, as well as also, taking the time to look at our processes and you look at new technologies, how we can simplify our work, and a lot of things like that. I think there's always free time can always be a blessing when you don't have your day-to-day operations. So we've just been trying to stay busy and try to see how we can develop the business.
That sounds interesting, and looks like you're so passionate in what you do, which is a good lesson for our students. So I think at this situation, being ready for the situation is also very essential, especially in this industry, isn't it? Okay. And so Maxine, moving to the next. As we know, tourism in Sri Lanka has been known as one of the largest foreign exchange earner to the country. And as per the statistics published by SLEDA, Sri Lanka was recording a growth of over 1.9 million tourist arrivals and had earned around $3.5 billion in the year 2019. Also, we have noticed that Sri Lanka was ranked as the 77th of the 141 countries in travel and tourism of the World Economic Forum, out of which India and People's Republic of China had contributed the highest number of tourist arrivals, which is also followed by countries such as UK, Germany, and France. But then still, it is clearly visible that the effect of the global COVID-19 pandemic and the Easter Sunday attack had crippled the industry by the year 2020. So as a result of that, the sector is trending towards local tourism and some other alternatives also. So my question to you is, if we hypothetically imagine that the Easter Sunday attack and the COVID-19 pandemic had not happened, I reiterate, if these two unforeseen incidences had not occurred, What would have been the place taken by Sri Lanka globally as a tourism destination at the moment?
Well, I mean, I honestly don't like to predict too much into it. I think, sky is the limit. I think we've already were pretty much at the top in terms of demand and, and as well as image, number one on Lonely Planet and a lot of other travel magazines that were rating us really highly as a destination. So I think the interest was definitely there. There were a lot of new markets being created. I know we always talk about China and India, but there were a lot of different markets. I think the South American markets, even the North American markets are slowly starting to build up. So the growth has been immense, I think, ever since the end of the Civil War. But yeah, I mean, there have been a lot of predictions made, I think, by varying different governments and government officials on where they want to see tourism go. But I would just like to bring a different bit of a perspective to it. I think the way it was growing was good because a lot of people making livings out of tourism. But there's also, I think, instead of just, reaching for those maybe the PAX numbers in terms of millions of people coming in, I think we also have to look at how we can develop the industry and move it forward. What I mean is, we have quite limited carrying capacity in terms of our sites and the places that the tourists go to visit. So let's take Sigiriya, for example, Yala National Park. I think those are issues that pretty much everyone in the industry knows about, close to 400-600 jeeps on big days. There's a lot of things that were a bit unsustainable. So but I think actually, what we need, what I would have liked to see happen would have been that we start developing and start improving the quality of our offerings as well. Not just in terms of value for money, but I think in terms of training of whether it's guides or just chauffeurs and English and storytelling. I think there's a lot we could do. I think the sky is definitely the limit, but I think these are the things we have to look at, because if we increase by another 1 million or 2 million visitors, I think those places which were almost already at a choking point in terms of when you look at the guest satisfactions from Yala and Sigiriya on busy days, it's not there. Those are the type of things that the feedbacks we get. We always have to tell our clients, okay, see, if you go to Sigiriya, wake up at around 5:30, go early morning so you're there, so you miss the rush. So I mean, there are things that can be done, but I think we also need to find a way of regulating and making sure that we don't dilute that experience when we go, because the sky is the limit. But if we don't find our exact carrying capacities, if we don't find a way of limiting the things, I think what can happen in the other way is the crash can be quite severe. I think if you look at a country like Thailand, so the numbers have been going up, but what I think a lot of tourists have seen is there's been a bit of over visitation. So your higher income tourists that usually come from Europe and all have stopped visiting because they have seen that there has been a drop and higher increase in numbers and the capacities aren't matching. So I think if we need to look at a sustainable approach to it, so I think if we can really look at an approach that is sustainable in that sense, then I think the sky is definitely the limit. But so I think this is where you can always take positives from this big stop. I know a lot of people are suffering from it, but we need to see what we can do. Obviously not stop people coming in, but as we grow as a destination, we need to make sure we don't lose our quality. And if we do that, I mean, the sky is the limit, and I'm sure tourism will be the #1 foreign exchange earner in 5-10 years if we can really keep our quality standards up.
Exactly. As you said, the sky is the limit when it comes to opportunities. And I wish Sri Lanka could capitalize on all the projects that they have lacked up and or whatever they had planned. And I wish we carry forward all our plans, even in the future. So anyway, moving to the next. As I already mentioned, we all know that Sri Lanka gives a mix of attractions to the locals and foreign travelers, of course, such as rainforests, tea plantations, cultural sites, adventures, and recently wellness, and etc. And if we closely notice, Mr. Maxine, in the year 2019, the investment for tourism sector had been a little bit stronger. And there had been new projects approved by the government, and several international hotels were building, and they started up their operations and so on, many. At the same time, we also noticed that in the last 3 decades, the organization that you are currently serving has put in many new thoughts in developing these segments in the industry. So yes, Maxime, how do you see the new trends, and how are you planning to capitalize on these new trends to the industry?
Yeah, so I think just like you said, our journey at Theme Resorts has been quite swift and fast if you look at it. So our first hotel, Malu Malu, was built in 2011, and now we are coming up on our 10th property, which will probably be open at the end of this year. So, we have, and I think if you look at the way our properties have been built, we are firm believers, and I think in the name itself you can see each property has a theme, each property is different from one another. So we really believe in researching and creating a very authentic Sri Lankan experience, which is true to its theme. So we want to give people an experience in the stay itself. So I think that is something that goes along the lines of what we hear now is what people are always throwing out there, experiential tourism. I think that is, extremely popular. And I think that's the way people are traveling now. It's about the experience, what you can do, what activities, what type of lodging, what type of something different to something to differentiate your holiday. So, you still have your normal tourists who like their standard resort type hotels and all of that, but we are, and I think if you look at the way, like you said, all the different niches. So we started off with Malu Malu, which in itself we tried to model around a traditional fishing village. So we try to make it a bit different from the normal type of hotel. But then we moved on. Then we created Alia, which is a bigger hotel of 98 rooms, and then Kitala. But except those hotels, now what we have started venturing into is smaller boutique and very highly experiential hotels. So one of our latest offerings was wire glamping in Knuckles. So it's a type of place where a lot of times you won't attract your traditional tourists. We're clearly aiming for a niche which is adventure and trekking and nature loving people, because just to get to the hotel, you have around 30 minutes by Jeep. You don't have electricity at the hotel, no phone connection. And it's all about trekking the Knuckles mountain range and giving the best possible access to it, as well as a beautiful location for any nature lovers. Then, we recently also opened Tea and Experience Factory, which is a factory that was abandoned 30 years ago in a place called Mandaram Nuwara. So Mandaram Nuwara, for example, is a location that I'm sure not Sri Lankans do know about it, but it's a location really out of your usual tourist route. Yes, it's a bit close to Nuwara, but it's a totally different destination. And what we want to do there is you don't create the hotel itself, you create the experience around it, and that's how you bring people in. So there, the whole experience is you stay a minimum of 2 nights, and then you can come there, pluck your own tea, and the bottom of the hotel is still a functioning factory, so you can still create your tea. You basically, from leaf to cup, you create your tea, and then you can take home the tea with you. So it's all about these novel experiences that we are trying to really tap into to differentiate ourselves. We also have 2 wellness resorts, Airuvi, Veligam, and Sigiriya, where it's only vegetarian. We do not serve even Coca-Cola or obviously no alcohol, and the whole stay from the start to the end is curated by the doctors, which means your meal plans, what you eat, the herbal teas, you get aristes and all these different Ayurvedic healings, and all of the treatments, they're curated to your body type, and it's a highly personalized experience. There are different niches. So I think what you really have to do is really understand and not try and move away from it. You need to understand what you're trying to build and what it is. It could be in anything, whether it's if you're working at a hotel, or whether you're working at even a travel agency, who you're trying to target, who you and what are their interests, and try and build accordingly while being true to the team that you are building around. So that's how we have been looking at working into this, as well as having a strong element of sustainability in all our businesses. So from a very long time, we try wherever we go to set up learning centers for the community. So for example, in Sigiriya down south, and in Pasiguda, we have free IT learning centers, which it's free IT education free of charge. So I think all of these things, I mean, I think it's no point just hopping onto trends and jumping onto it. You just have to be a bit precise with it as well, because for us, for example, we cannot now change what we have because we have built it into the walls. So you just have to be very authentic when you are trying to go after these trends. And I think the results will come. And there's a lot of different things and a lot of more trends that you can really capitalize into. And it's quite interesting because it is a bit more work, because you're researching a lot more, and you have to, even marketing is a lot more targeted, but it's really rewarding, I think, when you are working and when you're looking for these trends.
Wow, that's really interesting. And I think you have brought this discussion to the next level, where the audience and maybe the stakeholders will see a new horizon in the industry. And of course, definitely the target market is important. Identifying the target market is really important when it comes to building the strategies, isn't it? Right. And we can have a lot of hope in the future once this gray period is over, I guess. So yes, when we also talk about travel and tourism, definitely we cannot leave the importance of sustainable tourism, where it refers to the environmental, economical, and socio-cultural aspects of developing tourism. So it is revealed that even in this current flop in the industry, yet we have read that the government has initiated to offer beachlands and islets to the development of tourism. With such supports from the government, I believe that it's much more important that the industrialists will prioritize in developing the sustainable destinations in the country. So, being the president of the Slighter Youth, what is your role in developing sustainable tourism practices in the country?
Yeah, so I think, firstly, just give a bit of background what Slighter Youth is. And, I'm very privileged to be serving as the first president. So during the start of the pandemic last year in June, the Slightos, the apex body, as we like to call it in Sri Lanka, came up with this idea of giving youth who work within the Slight members an opportunity to come together and start lobbying for and start creating and start pushing tourism in the right direction for the future. So that was very much how we were formed. And our whole philosophy is to through youth engagement and youth empowerment, as well as education, try and help build a sustainable tourism industry. So what we are trying to do is, obviously we do try behind the scenes a bit of lobbying and trying to push for what we think is a sustainable way of doing things. But we also, try to regularly do awareness sessions, regularly try to do webinars like this, unfortunately, as we can't, meet in person. We try to do a lot of sessions, and we have a few things planned as well for the coming year in order to really drive Sri Lanka towards, towards its push, I would say, our industry towards its sustainability journey. Because the sustainability is that there's no finish line for it. It's always something that you can keep striving for more and more. So I think it's very important to get that mindset that, especially in the pandemic, that you can't achieve everything overnight, and if you do, that's probably not a very good sustainable policy or way of looking at it. So we are trying to work especially with stakeholders, so activity providers, service providers, yeah, as well as, to try and, give a bit of support, a bit of training, to help, just not only to improve the quality as well as to help our sustainable development in the long run. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things that we are, currently looking at doing. With the pandemic, it's not as easy as it is, unfortunately, but for now, we've just been doing a lot of awareness with the key stakeholders. We've done a few projects with the Mineri National Park, to get away with invasive species. We've done we try to do a bit of awareness on social media, as well as we are looking to push for the protection of certain habitats, and do a bit of lobbying as well, and show that as an industry we need to protect the country for the long run, because I think especially like all the students here, we still have a long way to go, and we want to have a long journey in the tourism industry. So we really need to make sure that we do set the right platform, and now is always the best time to do it. So that's very much why we are there and what we're trying to do.
Yes, as you correctly mentioned, things will not happen overnight. And I think it's very important to lay down the protocols towards the eco-friendly tourism. And we should promote the sustainable tourism so that the nature lovers are attracted, isn't it? So that we can hope to see huge growth in the tourism in the years to come. So, yes. And this is a kind reminder to our audience. We have posted a link in the chat for your feedback. Please do fill it for us. And if you have any questions in between, please leave it in the chat box. We will get back to you with that at the latter part of the session. So yes, as we have reached to the fag end of today's program, as a conclusion, being a young business leader in the industry, what would you like to tell the youngsters about the opportunities and challenges they might face when stepping into the industry?
Yeah, so I think, short term, the obvious challenge is that everyone is having a really tough time financially. So it might seem very hard to get a job opportunity and all, but I think, you really, I think there definitely will be a recovery, and there already is a recovery. So I'm sure, just keep your head up and be a bit patient. Like, even if you do have to get a different job from for maybe 6 months, 1 year, I'm sure the jobs will start coming, and when they do start coming, there will be a big demand for people in the industry, because I think a lot of companies have scaled back, and a lot of people have moved industries as well. So there will definitely be a big opportunity for fresh people coming out of university and colleges, and after their education looking to go into tourism. I think the main takeaway, if you want to be in the industry, I would say is, you have to really be passionate about it. So I think the passion, it could be hospitality, it could be event management, it could be, working at a DMC, or just even in administration, I think you have to always look to learn, because especially with, even though we're a small country, it's such a diverse country, and there's so many things to learn about. Especially for me, I work mostly at a travel agency, Connaissance de Salon, and there are so many things that are yet to discover in Sri Lanka, and like, it's actually really amazing. But to do that, you have to have the passion. You need to really want to get out there, learn and see. Also, always, you have to communicate also with this, if you're working in a hotel or if you're working at a travel agency. Learn from also the people coming into Sri Lanka about, what are the trends abroad, what is trend, what are the new and upcoming things. And it's all about trying to stay informed. Now with, the internet, there are so many opportunities for everyone to really, even if, for example, you're looking to start your own business one day, there are so many opportunities in so many different places. So I think you have to always keep learning every single day. And yeah, and there's definitely also things you can do to really help yourself and differentiate yourself. I think, so I'm lucky enough to speak French, and I think when you work in tourism, since it's a very international thing, it's always good to work on your languages, whether it's English, whether it's a different language you are looking at. There's lots of different scopes like that as well, which can really help boost and get you ahead in the industry. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the opportunities are really endless, but I think you just have to have a passion to go and get them, and keep wanting to learn, wanting to improve. And if you do not have that passion, especially to learn about your surroundings, what's there, if you want to work, it's a nature-based resort, for example, or a place, let's say if you're working in a place near Singha, I think it's in your duty to learn a little bit about what exactly are the learn about birds. So these are not things you have to do, and I'm sure you can get fine without it, but if you can always give yourself a little bit of that, if you can you can always give yourself a head start by learning and really digging into what places you are, and in your passions as well. So for me, it's quite interesting because I honestly always try to learn, and I'm often sound very, very, very stupid when I go for talks with Ayurvedic doctors and things like that. So I'm always trying to learn from them about Ayurveda, and these are things that are absolutely passionate, thrilling when you learn about them. So I think you just really need to have passion and really need to keep looking to evolve every day, because that's what really will get you ahead. And there's also different opportunities for people. I think something that we always tell our staff in the hotels, like sometimes you're very sad when you see your good staff being recruited by international companies and going abroad and working, but that's we see it as a bit of a blessing, because there's a lot of especially I think the Sri Lankan workforce, whether it doesn't have to be whether you work in a hotel, even if you work in an event management company, even if you work in a travel agency, there's definitely a lot of opportunities abroad as well for you all. So even those, I think they are excellent learning opportunities, and if you can take those 1-2 years, go abroad, take all that knowledge and absorb all of that, because working with international brands is really good, and then you can come back and bring that and give that out and apply that when you work. So there's tremendous opportunities, and even though it might not seem like the perfect time at the moment, I'm sure that even in the times to come, there's definitely going to be lots of scope for all of y'all. So keep your head up, and yeah, like I said, with our tourism industry, I think even for y'all, the sky is the limit, as long as you have that passion for it.
Oh, thank you for that, Maxine. Out there to all the future professionals who are planning to get into the travel and tourism industry, if you had any fear in getting into the industry, I think Maxine has given you the right words to get rid of your fears. And now you can jump into the sector. Of course, but yeah, of course, there are so many, as you mentioned, there are so many avenues, and therefore they have to be aware of what's happening around to make continuous improvement.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you spoke about fear, which is often a factor. I think, like you really need to push yourself, and that fear is there for anyone. Like whether you're talking, like sometimes you might think your language skills are not as perfect. Like I've had to step in to do city tours sometimes and things, and I thought, oh my god, I don't know anything about this city and all. But you just have to push yourself, and sometimes get into it, and it's a real passion. It's a really thrilling industry once you really get into it. And I think a lot of people, that's why they're so passionate and haven't closed their businesses. And a lot of people could have just closed businesses and given up in these tough times, but everyone's still very much looking to grow and prosper in the industry.
Exactly. So yes, thank you, Maxime. And I think it's now time for the question and answering session. So we have few questions coming in from the audience. So if I am to read out the first question for you, one of them is asking, how does the Port City project influence travel and tourism? And what's your opinion?
The Port City project, that's very interesting. I think it's only going to have a positive impact. And I think at the moment Colombo is very forgotten as a tourist destination. I know you do see quite a few tourists in Colombo, but especially we work a lot with the European markets, and they don't really see the point sometimes, of coming to a big city. So I think we really need to model Colombo in that city tourism sense, a bit like Singapore and all these city destinations like Dubai and all of that. So I think it will definitely be positive because there'll definitely be a lot of hotels and different types of activities. I think now itself, there's already a bit of a tourism interest because I think there's a company already doing what do you call it, day cruises from the marina. I know that there's, I think, what do you call, a driving range already on the port city, and I do know someone who's also doing a quad bike range there. This is why they build everything else. So there's already a bit of interest that'll happen. So I mean, I don't know enough about the specifics and how they'll do it. I think there are things that that sometimes might seem a bit taboo to talk about, but sometimes city destinations, you do need nightlife, you do need things like good bars, good restaurants, which I think Colombo already has. So I mean, we really need to see how the port city will develop itself, but I'm sure it really will add a different dimension to Colombo and really make it on par with those cities you go to. So there's a lot of work, I say, that I think that does need to be done. I think one important thing that it might do for tourism is we need to really concentrate and get in that right infrastructure, because there's a lot of conventions like MICE tourism, so there's a lot of events and things like that that can happen. I'm sure you see a lot of people that go to Singapore, and I'm sure you might have even seen packages advertised, go and see, I don't know, Ed Sheeran or someone in Singapore for the day, or Malaysia, wherever, and come, and it's quite affordable as well. So I mean, those are the type of things I think that they'll have to look at attracting. I don't know if that's really in the plans per se, but I definitely know that it's working out, and there's already projects around the port city that's helping boost that. I think like Cinnamon Life, even Shangri-La, and these different hotel projects are definitely boosting the destination Colombo. So it'll definitely have a good impact, but we just need to make sure that I think they strategically get those right elements into it, like a convention center and place for venue for concerts and things like that. And I think then it'll be a definite, like a big attraction.
Yeah, taking your word, we look forward for a nice experience very soon. I think he has answered your question. And next we have one more. So they're asking, what are the most important safety tips people need to keep in mind when traveling during the COVID-19?
Yeah, so that is a very I think you can I think the way the virus is, sometimes you can be as safe as possible, like, but the best way to not contract COVID is probably to stay at home and not travel. So when you're traveling, there's definitely a bit of that element of risk that's there, but I think the government and Sri Lanka tourism has done a quite big has done quite well, controlling the inflows of tourists, allowing all the tourism to be open at the moment, which is a really big thing, and having the right procedures in place. So there's a lot of I can go on for hours and hours about the bubbles and all of that, but I think overall they've done a really good job. I think it's just pretty much basics: sanitize, keep your mask on, and I think we have a good procedure where we do PCR tests for people coming into the country, and then once in the country, and if you're vaccinated, you can travel freely. But there will always be risks, and I think if we are to get over COVID, I think everyone needs to get vaccinated, and then we need to everyone needs to get vaccinated, and once we do, I think we'll have to get on with our lives, even though we might get sick, but hopefully the vaccines will make sure that it's nothing serious.
Yeah, wishing that we quickly get rid of this and get back to the normal situation. So the next question for us here is about the air travel. So there's somebody asking, when it comes to air travel, what will be some of the biggest challenges people should anticipate?
Is it changes or challenges? Challenges. So I'm
Sorry, it's biggest changes people should
changes. Yeah. So I think that's also a very interesting thing. So, but I mean, I'm not an expert at all about air travel because in our business we don't do ticketing, and we are an inbound operator, so we don't do the flight part of it. I think we've already seen some very interesting changes. I think, for example, the Airbus A380 going, Airbus stopping the production of it. So I think, there's a lot of low cost and a lot of different flight options coming in. So at the moment in Sri Lanka, we're quite lucky because I think, we're quite strategically positioned for the Gulf carriers who are usually providing a lot of different options through Qatar, Emirates, Oman Air, Turkish Airlines. But I think even recently, I think Sri Lankan Airlines has started reoperating to Paris. Air France has started coming to Sri Lanka. There's a lot of different different changes that are coming in. But air travel in general, I think what people are seeing is that now that whole A380 having a huge airline to go from small destination to destination does not work. So that you need smaller, more efficient aircrafts to go from to do, I would say, probably more flights between destinations because everyone's got their schedules, and as the world's becoming smaller, I think you can expect more and more air connections, and hopefully the prices to still keep coming down. I mean, I'm not at all an expert on it, but I'm hoping that's what could happen. But it's quite interesting in Sri Lanka now. I think the networks are really improving. We work a lot with the French market, and from having for the last 5 years not having a direct flight to Paris, now we've got 2 companies offering direct flights. So it's very strange, but since we're still not even really recovered from COVID, but it's quite interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And yes, when can the travelers expect things to go back to normal, or will it simply become new normal?
Good question. I always I thought we'd be in normal by last December, then by this April, and then this July, and now I'm thinking it might be November. But I think we'll never get back to it. It will slowly come that we'll get back into our normal ways of life. But I think it's it's probably maybe not the best comparison, but I think after 9/11 air travel and everything really changed in terms of security and all of that. I think after COVID, everything is really going to change in terms of how we look to tackle these viruses, how we stop and quarantine destinations, and how we'll have to maybe sometimes, if something like this ever happens again, just stop overnight this global transport. But I don't know. I think it'll definitely be a new normal where we'll just have to keep getting vaccinated, and hopefully the virus dies out. But I think a lot of countries, when you look at like Europe now, Europe is pretty much fully open, but they still have a lot of cases, and they still have the Delta variant going quite rampant, and unfortunately they do have a few deaths, but if you look at the percentages, they've come down very drastically. So I think if we follow that, then we can get our population vaccinated, and then keep working on booster shots. And I think even Israel was talking about giving a 4th vaccine now to its citizens. So I think that'll be the new normal, and hopefully that will really mean that things will improve. I think once we can get to that level in Sri Lanka, I think things will honestly pick up quite fast. But when exactly that'll happen is the golden question.
Right, thank you. And yes, I think we have one more question, and to be the concluding one. So they are asking, speaking of event management, any hopes of picking up after pandemic? Which means, how soon do you think event sector can be active again?
I think, for that, I think we just have to everyone has to, do their part, to be honest. And, we just need the situation really in Sri Lanka to improve and get back to the level it was. So, actually in our business, we have events company as well, that CDC events and events that does conventions. So, we'll be quite happy to hear that we actually did a convention, be Sri Lankan by Sri Lankan, which happened between the pandemic, which happened when the pandemic was easing out in Sri Lanka, I think between the second and this third wave. So there definitely will be these events that will start up again, but we just have to, I think, all do our part, stay indoors, always wear masks. Everyone should go, and now that even young people can go and get vaccinated, everyone should take the effort and really go and get vaccinated, and then things will definitely, I think, pick up quite soon once they do, because there's a lot of events that need to happen, a lot of things that have been kept back, and so there'll definitely be a big boom once it does. But even that, especially, it might take a little more time, because events, for events to happen, you need the people behind it to have the income and the money to be able to do it. So yeah, I honestly think, I can't predict when. I wish I could, but yeah, once, I would say, situation comes down, improves in Sri Lanka and almost everyone is vaccinated, I'm sure it will slowly start up again.
Yeah, I agree that nobody can predict at this stage. So yes, I think we will take one more question as the final. So they ask, what are some other broad stroke travel trends you predict we will see in the months to come?
I think you'll definitely get a lot of what you call slow travel. So Sri Lanka is always a quite fast-paced travel destination, because you are trying to do as much as you can, and usually in 7-8 days. I think holidays will be much longer. So I think the average stay in Sri Lanka for I think European tour is around 8 to 9 days, I think, between 8 and 11 days. So I think that will definitely increase the time to come. So people will want to spend more time in places, discovering more with people. And I think, people will, just keep going for experiential things, because, as much as it's nice to, go and visit Sigiriya and all, I think people will prefer, a lot of community-based things, because it's been so long that even everywhere in the world that people could not interact with one another. So I think, community-based things like going and have cooking classes, just random things that even we can't, that's anything that's very community-based, I think will be quite popular. Wellness is definitely, I think, one of the fastest growing segments in tourism, and I don't think that will stop, because people are more conscious. And there's a lot of things like I think I heard a statistic that